What's up, brand builders? Stephen Hurahan here at brandmasteracademy.com, and in this video you're going to learn what brand perception is and how to measure and grow it, so you can shape how your target market sees your brand and make strategic decisions to grow awareness. Now, the term brand perception is one of many fluffy branding terms. It's fairly self-explanatory on the face of it. Your brand perception is the perception of a brand in the market, so it's pretty simple. Now, it's true that the term is self-explanatory and it is easy to understand, though few realize how the art of shaping that perception determines the success or failure of that brand. In this video, we're breaking down what brand perception is, the important role it plays, and what you can do to shape your brand's perception in the mind of your audience. Now, as I've outlined in the intro, the brand perception is easily defined as a brand's perception in the market. Now, you could be forgiven for believing that the brand's perception is in fact owned by the brand. Even the structure of the statement is possessive. The reality is, however, the perception of a brand is owned not by the brand itself, but by the consumers and the wider audience. Because although we can physically see collateral or digital platforms or even experience the brand physically through brand activation, none of these things are the brand itself. They simply express the brand, or they are expressions of the brand, which aim to influence the perception of that brand in the minds of the individual consumers who experience it directly or indirectly. So in other words, the brand manifests in the mind of the audience, shaped by those experiences. To distill that even further, the brand lives and dies in the mind of the audience through its perception. So why is brand perception so important? Well, your customers are the reason your brand exists. Without them, there is no brand or business behind it. It's fair to say then that your customers matter, and so do their opinions and perceptions of your brand. Now, if a consumer or prospect has a positive experience with your brand, whether through consumption or experience, your brand earns trust. Earned trust dramatically increases the likelihood that they'll choose or come back to your brand over your competitors. They're also far more likely to talk positively about your brand or demonstrate loyalty and advocacy. In fact, according to Yotpo, 60% of customers will tell friends and family about a brand they're loyal to. And this kind of advocacy, when your customers turn into marketeers, is far more influential than any other form of marketing and is widely considered to be the holy grail of branding. Now, if a consumer or prospect has a negative experience with your brand, on the other hand, trust is lost. Though it may take your brand multiple touch points and multiple positive experiences to generate any kind of influential impact, it may only take one negative experience to completely destroy a consumer relationship. The reality is, we're far more likely to share bad experiences with our friends and family than good experiences. We're 50% more likely, according to marketingcharts.com. So where exactly are brand perceptions shaped? Well, considering that the brand lives in the mind of the audience through perceptions shaped by experiences, the perception of a brand is everything. The art of branding is not designing logos or even creating messages or stories. The art of branding is the art of shaping perceptions through the strategic tools a brand has at its disposal. So in reality, a brand is shaped at every single touch point. When we experience a brand, we're experiencing strategically developed touch points that are all designed to shape how we feel about that brand, which ultimately influences our overall brand perception. These tools of brand expression include positioning, differentiation, benefit and value, personality, voice, messaging, stories, emotion, empathy, logos, typography, color, imagery, activation, emails, coupons, advertisements, articles, videos, and much, much more. Essentially, every single touch point across every single channel or media, whether digital or physical, is another opportunity for a brand to influence the perception that lives in the mind of the audience. So how exactly do we influence perceptions with strategy? Well, each of the brand tools of influence mentioned in the previous section isn't created through shotgun strategy. Each one is carefully developed through the brand strategy process, which in turn strategically shapes the individual touch points of the brand and the experiences of the audience through those touch points. Here are some of the most influential brand strategy elements that contribute to the overall brand experience. The positioning strategy. Now, the position of the brand defines why the brand is different to its competitors, and it also defines the value of that difference to the consumer. In essence, the positioning strategy establishes exactly what the audience should understand and remember about the brand as a priority, which influences the rest of the brand development and the overall communication strategy as well. Brand personality. Now, brand personality is becoming an increasingly important tool that brands are leveraging to shape audiences' perceptions. Neuroscience has uncovered that as humans, we make the majority of our decisions subconsciously through our emotional limbic system. As humans, we connect with other humans based on characteristics and behavioral traits which we're either attracted to or we're not attracted to. Brands making conscious effort to understand their audience, their desires, and their personality are at a distinct advantage when they use that understanding to shape brand communication through that personality. The more familiar a brand feels and the more attracted the audience is to the characteristics being displayed, the more likely the brand is to resonate with that audience. Brand messaging. Now, one of the most influential tools at a brand's disposal is the brand messaging framework. Though many understand the brand message to consist of a single core message, the reality is with the indefinite touch points of modern brands today, a comprehensive brand messaging framework is required. Now, this framework should outline a collection of key messages which are developed to shape the audience's understanding of what the brand is all about. And these individual key messages are then used to influence specific touch points and their messages across all the platforms that the brand uses. Emotional storytelling. Now, as humans, we all have this innate attraction to stories because they've been used to transfer information from one generation to the next over millions and millions of years. Now, we gravitate towards stories because our instinct tells us that there is a reward of knowledge at the end of that story, at the conclusion of that story. And this gravitational pull towards story, coupled with our emotional decision-making bias, makes for a potent combination. Brands that can wrap their messages up within emotional storytelling can leverage our human instincts to attract eyes and ears. Authenticity. Now, authenticity is the hallmark of modern brands, which aims to connect with audiences through human emotions. Now, since the shift of consumer power from brands to consumers on the back of the digital revolution, brands have evolved into these human personas. The days of one-way broadcast communication are gone. Today, brands have to be there communicating on the digital front lines, and consumers are less tolerant of brands talking BS. Honesty is a key ingredient of modern brand communication and is measured by instinct. And the visual identity. Now, the development of the brand personality defines the characteristics that the brand should use throughout its messaging. Now, while the messaging framework has an opportunity to deliver those characteristics through language and through tones, the visual identity can bring them to life visually. As the old adage goes, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. We all know that a brand is not a logo, though the visual identity as a whole still has an important role to play. If the strategic characteristics are displayed visually, the brand strategy can begin shaping perceptions within milliseconds of the very first contact and beyond. So now you know what brand perception is and how to influence it. How do you measure brand perception? Well, brand equity is the premium on the value a brand offers as a business. In other words, it's the intangible value attributed to the brand in isolation from that business. Growing brand equity is, in essence, growing the brand. And in order to measure that equity, brand perception must be measured. Because your brand perception lives in the mind of your audiences, that's where you must go to measure it. So how do you do that? Well, you can start with audience outreach. Most brands begin building an audience from day one across multiple platforms. A social media following across multiple platforms and an active email list provides the brand with an outreach tool. Although social posts asking for positives and negatives might result in your brand hanging out its dirty laundry in public, private messages and email offer a great way to get the lowdown from the horse's mouth. Reach out and ask the people that matter. You can also use social monitoring. Now, social media has become the modern day piazza where people hang out and share their opinions and experiences. Unlike the days of old where eavesdropping in on a conversation might get you a bad rep or a bloody nose, today brands can simply search discussions for mentions of their brand to get a temperature gauge of the overall sentiment. There are plenty of social media monitoring tools today which all offer the ability to gain insights through social media conversations. And then you have review sites. Whether we have a good or a bad experience with a brand, we have plenty of digital platforms available to us to spread the good or the bad or the indifferent word. Review sites are an excellent way to get an overall gauge of brand perception in the market, and it's a go-to for customers who are in the consideration phase to get their own perceptions confirmed or readjusted. Now look, the branding and marketing industry, I'll be the first to tell you, has many different terms that are used interchangeably, and they can dilute the importance of others. But brand perception is a key branding term that you need to take care of as a brand builder, because this is the very thing that the brand you're building aims to shape. If the brand is developed with a crystal clear understanding of who the audience is and a clearly defined position, it can develop a communication strategy with a definitive plan to shape those perceptions. Now, if you want to dive deeper into brand strategy, then this video here will help you out. But before you click it, if you want to become a master of brand, make sure you hit the like and subscribe to get more videos just like this. Until next time, brand like a master, and I'll see you in the next video.